Metallica shits balls.
Hey, check it out, everyone. It's episode 176 of the real, authentic Radio Free Innsmouth.
Those other bozos don't stand a chance.
That's right.
그리고 진짜 제가 해보고 싶은 게
What other bozos?
You might ask.
I don't know. I just felt like saying bozos.
I got this thing called autism.
This week, not only are we covering an actual black metal band and not some weird dungeon synth, vaguely black metal adjacent thing. This is actual black metal. And not only that, we're covering just one band. How about that? I haven't done that in a while.
Oh, ikalamao.
Well, I meant in reference to like an actual black metal band, obviously. An actual just like straight up black metal band. Probably haven't done that since like episode 134, Bill Skirneer. You know, just an episode on one band that plays
Simple, ordinary, unembellished, unmistakable, crystal clear, as frank as Frankenstein, as blunt as an atom bomb. One compound word. It's motherfucking goddamn sons of bitchin' fucking
black metal.
And it's not even just any old black metal band. It's a Chinese black metal band from China, which means I'm going to have to do my best not to just keep going for the next 15 minutes. I'll try my best.
Okay, USA.
The name of this band is, Hey, can you help me out here a little bit? Yeah, that, but their name is usually romanized as Zuriaake, because their actual Chinese name translates to a lake of buried corpses, which is, of course, is pretty fucking black metal. But they combined the word Zu, which is the Sumerian god of wind and clouds, but every Sumerian god's also kind of all about death. The word for bury and the word for lake. There we go, that makes sense, right?
I get it.
I don't get it.
And I've been into these guys since pretty much right around when I graduated high school. And I remember thinking back then, these guys are like the Chinese Drudic, or Drudka, or however you know, that fucking Ukrainian band. That assessment is kind of wrong, but also kind of right. But more than anything, it's a gross oversimplification. Now that I've grown older and wiser, I see them less as being an Asiatic analog to Drudic and more as the latest continuation of a certain style of black metal composition that has been consistently evolved upon by many different bands over the years. It was initiated by Bathory, particularly on this song from their 1986 album Under the Sun of the Black Mark entitled Enter the Eternal Fire, which begins with a very simple kind of ostinato riff that then kind of leads into this like pretty simple, very groove-oriented sort of thing with a very like scratchy, nasty guitar sound that allows for a potent ambient effect given like how repetitive the drums are here. Very head-nodding type stuff, very hypnotic. Probably the beginning of this kind of hypnotic black metal thing. And then it has like little fill-in like riffs like this right here, and then it goes back into the main riff, yeah. And it really just meditates on this like sequence of notes for a very long time, and then heads into variations and kind of spin-offs of it as you get to like the middle section of the song, which is what you're hearing right now. Also nice incorporation of clean guitar. I bet this influenced Immortal quite a bit. Nice little drum trick there to go back into the main riff, which has now had added layers of melody with these spooky keyboards. And if you know anything about the song, you know it's building up into a guitar solo, but I probably don't need to tell you that. Everybody knows this fucking Bathory song. I'm not going to play the whole thing. But that's kind of like the beginning of this compositional style that was then elaborated on by quite a few bands, but pretty much perfected by Burzum.
Let's find out.
This riff in particular is very, very cyclical. Kind of drones on one note and then like loops it back over with that little phrase you heard right there. It goes something a little bit like da-na-na-na-na, and then it just holds on that note with this very hypnotic drum beat. Major evolutions in minimalism. And then I guess you call this like the verse of the song. The riff itself isn't really there, but you can feel its ghost kind of floating around, if that makes sense. Because you could definitely see how this part grew out of that other part, and if you played them together, they would layer perfectly, so you can kind of hear the riff even when it's not there. And then here's that little wacky variation type shit building off of what Bathory was doing back on Enter the Eternal Fire. The name of this song is Help.
Erblicke die Töchter des Firmaments.
Yeah, that.
Autism. What is that really? Let's find out.
And then we finally get to Drudic. We're sort of at the end of this evolutionary line. We're working with that same sort of repetitive composition, hypnotic drum beats, simple cyclical phrases with lots of layers that can be shifted around. But the difference with Drudic is that instead of being almost intentionally abrasive, they made it very pleasant sounding. Like, you could see why this kind of stuff might open the door for people trying to bring shoegaze music into black metal, which is definitely a travesty. But that's not really Drudic's fault. Like, they did good stuff with this kind of stuff. And this is the kind of thing that Zuriaake probably heard and then decided to build on that style even more with their first album back in 2007. This album, entitled After Image of Autumn, which is a great title, also features a lot of cool synthesizer-based little segue bits like this, leading into some pretty hard-edged black metal. Very ambient, very hypnotic, and you can hear like that Drudic influence, but they've updated it by incorporating synths not that much unlike what you might hear on a Burzum album, except they have that sort of Chinese folk music flavor to them. Then we have some more very Drudic sounding stuff. Right here they're picking out like those first 3 notes in the chord and a sequence leading into a very Bathory style riff, bringing back a bit more aggression to the style that Drudic might have lacked. There's quite a bit of Bathory going on in this, in addition to all the Burzum and the Drudic and the whatnot and the hey-ho, I don't know.
Good band, actually.
This part's cool because they're still utilizing that same sort of like throbbing, pulsating riff, but they started doing a palm-muted chug that kind of goes along with it, but it's not like a hard-edged breakdown chug, it's an atmospheric chug, if that makes sense. And then it leads into some intertwining tremolo-type melodies. These are very dense songs in terms of like all the different things that are going on, and that means it's a very interesting album. But it's not all just kind of that calming atmospheric stuff. They get downright spooky at times.
Boom! Haunted house!
I mean, it's still very atmospheric and dreamy, but it has a very dark edge to that atmosphere. I like these like drum hits right here breaking up the guitar drones. That's an interesting compositional technique. Big fan of that. Then it leads into another kind of Bathory style groove that I find to be rather interesting. You got the one guitar droning out these like very scratchy Burzum chords, and the other one's kind of playing this bendy melody in the right channel speaker there. Then more of those triplets that we heard earlier on in that more atmospheric kind of calm song, now with a much more aggressive edge to it. So overall, I would say these guys have a very interesting take on this sort of Burzum-y, Bathory, Drudic-y style black metal on this, their first album. Now we're getting total Bathory, almost kind of thrashy, which helps break up what would otherwise be seen as monotonous by some people. Not me. I've enjoyed every second of this album. I thought it's fucking dank. I did back in 2007 at least, but then a lot of stuff happened, and I actually kind of forgot this band was a thing until fairly recently. Come to find out that they were very considerate of my forgetting about them, because they've only done one full length since then, so I didn't have to do too much research. And this new full length, well, relatively new, it still came out a few years ago. It's called Guyan, or the Lone Goose, and it further develops their style into some pretty startling territories. They're no longer just kind of like that Chinese band that sort of sounds like Drudic. They're definitely their own thing now. This song is called Sleepwalking. It's my favorite on the album, and it's 20 minutes long, but luckily for you guys, I've edited it. And by you guys, I mean Tommy, who would have killed me if I played the whole fucking thing.
Fucking bitch.
There's a lot more folkish instrumentation, too, on this album, which is an interesting development. It used to just be kind of confined to these like little interludes on that first album. Now it's very much part of the music in general, which makes it very unique sounding. There's also a lot more like rhythmic complexity. The drumming, while still, very slow and ambient at times, is a lot busier with the fills and such. The guitars have stepped up their game considerably. There's a lot of these like almost kind of shreddy bits going on. It's tapping, but it's not tapping for the sake of showing off. It's just more part of the riff, which is an interesting way of doing things. Not a lot of people use tapping for compositional purposes. Then we have these like single note, like very fast tremolo picked leads that kind of porpoise over the music. The clean vocals are a nice touch. This part had a lot of emotional impact for me, which is why I included it. And overall, I was really enjoying the black metal stuff going on in this album. And then it transitions into some even stranger stuff. Like I said, there used to just be kind of these little interludes on that first album, but now the like synthesizer and folk music parts are expanded to be an integral part of the songs proper, which I think is an interesting development, and it helps make their sound more unique. Because usually you wouldn't have like a very Drudic or Burzum-y sounding band going like full summoning, like right here. I also really love those like atmospheric cymbals. That's interesting stuff. It's like very orchestral at times. That's what I mean, like almost kind of summoning-ish. But not a summoning knockoff. I like bands that can incorporate stuff that sounds like summoning, but they aren't summoning knockoffs, which is why I enjoyed Malefice so much, and it's why I think this new Zuriaake album is a great development in their sound. That orchestral percussion, big timpanis, good stuff. Puts hair on your chest. Guitars are back. Also the bass is no slouch. It has a very nice warm tone to it. Overall, it's just a very well-composed and interesting sounding album. And I'm highly looking forward to seeing where they take this sound next.
아 이거는 못 고르지.
What's that you say? They put out a new EP in 2019.
안 골라 이건. 포기. 패스.
Well, shit, we better listen to that. This EP only has 2 songs on it, but they're both really long, so it's definitely more of an EP than just a single. The first song that I'm going to play off of this is called Evil Spirit. I chose this one because it's, again, like a very different sounding song for them. It really leans into that spooky kind of aggressive stuff they hinted at in their first album and didn't really indulge in it all in the second one. They must have had some demons to work out, because this is a very nasty sounding song. It's got that kind of chuggy, very slow, almost kind of thrash riff, but it's still got that same kind of ambient vibe to it that their earlier stuff had. The lead guitar is back from the prior album, but now it's doing very odd, dissonant, kind of squawky, dissonant things, which I found to be very interesting. So Evil Spirit is kind of like the odd man out as far as their catalog goes, and I would like to see them pursue this direction further, but I also really like their like calmer, more ambient stuff, and that's what the second side of this single or EP or whatever the fuck sounds like. It's very much in line with what they were doing on their second album. So that's Zuriaake. They only really got like 3 things to get. You should get all of them because they're all really good. I hope you liked learning about them, and I'll see you around.
Thank you for watching.
Because I've never been said a word to anyone. I never will. What? I think it was just that's it, so I thought it was holy shit.
Oh, hit the lamau.
Holy shit!